Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another edition of Hilaal Live, all the way from the Cape Town studios. My name is Luqman Shadrack. Thanks for joining us on Channel 347 on DSTV, and also you could live stream on our via our website, www.hilal.tv. So it's Thursday, and we invite interesting people into studio to educate ourselves and also our audience as well. In studio, we have Master Property Practitioner and Director of Nadia Moses Real Estate, Sister Nadia Moses in studio. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I'm rattling because we've got so much to talk about, and I want to get all of this information out for our viewers as well. Nadia, shukran so much for coming into studio and being part of this program. This is such an integral part of our community where people need to know this information with regards to if they want to go into the real estate market. Now, we do know that it can be a very daunting exercise for some people, young and old. And for some people, it can be second nature. But I thought, let's do a bit of a refresher for those people that want to get into the real estate market. So when wanting to buy a house or wanting to go into the real estate market, what documentation is required from a potential buyer before they go and purchase a property?
Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A potential buyer needs to have a pre-approval done. It's also called a affordability assessment.
Okay.
So there's a few documents that the bank requires, which is your ID, 6 months bank statement, 6 months pay slip, obviously your income and expenses. And if you are married, how were you married? If you're married in community of property, it would be both parties that obviously needs to produce the IDs and obviously income and expenses.
Right. And that's a set format when it comes to whichever bank, whichever lending house you go to. That's what they require to do an affordability assessment.
Correct. That is all the stuff that they're going to need so that they can have a proper assessment done on yourself. So it's always good to have something done before buying so that you know what you are up for, what is the cost, what the bank is willing to offer you as a bond before you're going to shop around. Because we find that our buyers are looking, window shopping as they call it, and then when they find the house that they like, then obviously they're disappointed because obviously they haven't followed the right steps.
The proper steps. That's very important. While we're on the topic in terms of IDs and bank statements and things like that, do these only apply to South African citizens or people that are living from foreign countries in South Africa that were born elsewhere?
Correct.
Now living in South Africa, can they also qualify?
Yes, they can do that. Obviously, the bank wants to know how are they getting paid, by dollars. And if we've got a lot of South Africans living abroad that's buying property here.
Okay.
The problem is that they cannot buy and get 100% bond.
Oh.
So what the bank is saying, because you're working abroad and you're earning dollars, they probably think that you have a lot of money.
Okay.
So they would want you to come up either with a 10% deposit or 20% deposit.
Wow.
It depends.
Okay.
So for somebody to buy for $1 million, you have to have 100,000 Rand for deposit. So if you're South African, obviously we can apply for 100% bond.
Right.
So before viewing a property, it's important that they do the pre-approval. The pre-approval also pick up on there that will show you how you conduct your accounts.
Okay.
So then you will know before the time. Should I buy? Can I buy? What accounts is in arrears? Those kind of things.
But also banks want to know that you can afford it. They have an obligation to ensure that you can afford it. And at the same time, they wouldn't want you to default on any of the payments.
Correct. Okay. We're coming out of COVID, and I know that a lot of people have obviously made debt. So it's important whether you are going to buy it now or maybe in the near future, it's best to do the pre-approval.
Okay.
Then you will be able to see what the bank will pick up, obviously, however you conduct your accounts.
Now, how do banks assess your affordability for pre-qualification? Because obviously, if I see a house for 500,000 million rand, 1.5 million rand, I've got my heart set on this house now, but I don't know that I can actually afford it. I mean, what are the steps that banks look at?
Your credit scoring, your profile, how do you conduct your accounts? So that is why it's important to do that steps first, so that before you purchase, when you've done your pre-approval, it kicks out obviously your accounts
Right.
or your creditors that you're paying. So you cannot hide those information because it will come up on ITC.
For sure.
And if you are paying late, if you are skipping payments, your credit score obviously drops.
Yeah.
So if you pay on time and your regular payment on your accounts, obviously that is how you build your scoring.
Do you know how the credit score works? I mean, is there an average that they look at?
I think about 600 upwards.
Okay, 600.
600 upwards. I'm speaking under correction, but I think that is the figure that they're talking about.
Okay.
But it's important because people might not have any debt at all. Then they can't get a bond.
Right, right.
So the banks also want you to make a debt. So for the younger generation that is starting now out, open an account. Whether it's a small amount that you're purchasing, let's say you go to Ackermans or buy for 500 Rand, pay off 50 Rand a month. The bank just wants to see how you conduct your accounts. And if you have to pay the end of a month, don't pay the 5th of the following month. That is where the scoring drops.
Gotcha.
So that is how the banks look at it.
Okay.
They also look at your income.
Okay.
Your expenses. So obviously your expenses plus your bond installment that they are looking for cannot exceed your net income.
Gotcha.
So that is how they do the pre-qualification.
Okay.
So once you have the pre-qualification, then you see, okay, the bank has said I qualify for 1 million. Now I can start looking at a property in that price range.
Right.
You cannot now go and look for something for 2 million or 1.5. You need to work around what you've got as a pre-qualification.
As much as we would like to afford more than we can actually pay, we need to be realistic.
Correct.
All right. So what else do the banks look at?
Yeah, that is obviously how you married. How are you married? So you cannot purchase a property alone if you're married in community of property.
I see.
So they will pick these kind of things up. Sometimes elderly people might not even know. Sometimes they forget, are you married in Muslim rights? Are you married in court? So if you're married in court, obviously the spouse must come onto the application. Yeah, basically that is what they look at.
And in terms of incurring other debt as well, when you look at somebody's affordability, do the banks look at what other debt you incur?
Correct. So once you've got a pre-qualification, we're just using as 1 million as an example.
Okay.
So the bank has said to you, you qualify for 1 million, you can now go look at the property, you now put in an offer to purchase, and then at that stage between once you've put in an offer to purchase till registration, you cannot now go and buy furniture on debt.
Right.
You cannot now go buy a fridge on debt, because before registration they go and back into your credit to see if you've made extra debt, because then it affects your affordability.
Correct.
They can decline that application few days just before registration, and now you've gone through all that process.
Right.
So once you've put in an offer to purchase, please, we encourage our clients not to make any debt. You can make the debt after registration.
Registration has gone through. Very good advice. You've been in the industry for a number of years as well, and I would imagine that you've seen certain changes, especially when our country goes into a recession as well. How does it affect the real estate market? I mean, does it affect it negatively? Do we have to wait for a little while and then?
Okay, so before COVID, the interest rate was 12%,
right.
11.5%. That is, property owners knew that rate. So when COVID came in, the interest rate dropped to 7%.
Okay.
At that time, a lot of people started buying property because now the affordability was intact. So now that the interest rate after COVID has just been rising every time.
Okay.
So people are now struggling because at the time when they did the installments was maybe 5,000 Rand, and now it's 7,000 or 8,000 Rand. So for us that has been old buyers before or owners, we're used to that. But the rate is obviously maybe going to go up a little bit, but it won't go as down as it was before.
For sure.
So people, obviously, there's a lot of people now at the stage where they're not used to that 7%. I mean, the installment that they are paying, it's now rise. So they're struggling to keep up with the bond. So, but before anything happens, please rather make arrangements with the banks instead of not answering our phones when the bank calls. ignoring the phone calls, because that is what is happening.
For sure.
And then the bank can come in and obviously auction the property.
Where are we at now with the interest rates? What are we looking at?
11.75.
11.75.
Yeah.
It's quite a
So
bit.
from 7% to 11.75.
Right. And in certain instances, I know people you can fix your rate as well.
Fix it, yeah. But like I said, when you have this high rate, if you want to fix it, you can. But I mean, it's going to be beneficial for you at the end of if it does drop, continue.
Yeah.
If you can pay more onto your bond, why not? Because the quicker you can finish it off, because we don't know in a couple of years' time if we lose our job or if we cannot afford it, then you've always added extra onto your bond. You always paid extra on your bond. Whether it's a 500 Rand, we would encourage people to rather pay extra on the bond in case issues like that comes up.
Yeah. I think COVID, shook up many industries and especially the real estate industry. A lot of people obviously lost their jobs, and the first thing they wanted to do was then get rid of an asset, which was their house, which was their biggest asset, not realizing that they would need elsewhere to live. You couldn't move in COVID as well.
Yeah.
That was the other issue. So it really changed the game in the real estate industry, I would say as well.
Yes, it did. But it is picking up again. Obviously, the buyers, there's so many properties for sale at the moment. Everybody's struggling. Everybody wants to sell. But there isn't that buyers that can buy again now to start. This is the challenge, the affordability, because of the interest rate has gone so up. But that is why I said it's important before people look at properties, they need to do the pre-qualification that they know where they are going.
Good advice. We're chatting to Nadia Moses from Nadia Moses Real Estate in studio, giving us valuable advice around buying a house, pre-qualification, and what you need to do in order to have your affairs in order before going to the bank and wanting to purchase a property. Do join us after the break as we continue with this interesting topic as well. You are still watching Hilaal Live. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Hilaal Live from the Cape Town studios. Today we're talking all things real estate. If you're thinking about purchasing a home or maybe a second home or even selling for that matter, we've got Nadia Moses in studio from Nadia Moses Real Estate, chatting to us, giving us valuable advice on what to look out for. Nadia, shukr so much for coming into studio. Really valuable advice as well. Before the break, we spoke about what you need to have in order prior to going to the bank. But one of the things that people fail to understand or realize that there are various costs that a buyer has to incur when purchasing a property. What are those costs, if you can break it down for us?
Okay. So the purchase price is already secured by the bank. So we've now bought a property for $1 million.
Right.
The bank has approved the bond for $1 million. That is just the example that we're using now. So basically transfer fees and bond fees.
Okay.
So there's a transferring attorney involved, and then there's obviously a bond attorney involved.
Okay, so when you say transfer, I've got my home, I've sold my home, right? Now I want to purchase a new home.
Correct.
I would have to pay the new, the seller.
Yes, transfer fees.
Okay.
That is obviously to the attorney.
To the attorney, right.
The transferring attorney.
Right.
And then there's a bond attorney.
Okay.
So the bank that has given you the bond is obviously going to appoint his own attorney on his panel.
Okay.
So there's a transferring attorney and there's a bond attorney.
Okay.
So a lot of people also don't know that when they purchase a home that they have to have transfer fees and bond fees. So that is the attorneys that's involved for them to obviously pay so that they can transfer the property into their name.
I just want to ask you on the transfer fees. I mean, this can be exorbitant sometime as well. Can this be recuperated into the bond, or is it a separate amount?
No, it's obviously not included, it's excluding. Okay. So if you apply for a R1 million bond, the transfer fees will be on $1 million, transfer fees and the bond fees. So if you buy for 1.150, then you're obviously liable for transfer duty, and that is to SARS.
Right.
So anything under 1.150, you don't pay transfer duty, you pay transfer fees.
And what is the transfer fee on $1 million, for example, a bond?
Transfer fees can probably be about 40,000.
40,000.
And then obviously, I'm speaking under correction now with figures, but obviously the attorneys have a table of what the fees are, transferring attorneys and the bond attorneys.
Okay.
But we cannot include it into the purchase price.
Okay.
Because if people think that you can, but then it means that the seller will get less. So if you think of taking off, let's say 70, 80,000 Rand, the seller's obviously not going to get his full purchase price.
Of course. Okay. What other costs do we incur when we're selling? Or purchase.
Or purchase is only the purchase is only liable for transfer fees and bond fees.
Okay.
That's the only thing, and obviously not to make any extra debt in the time of, like we said before, registration.
Right. Okay. And then we've got bond fees, I know as well, and then attorney fees. That's also a separate
That is
amount,
the transfer
right?
and the transfer.
Oh, that's all
yes,
included.
that's all
I see.
included.
It's not an additional fee added
No,
on.
no. Transfer duty is for the SARS. That's
Okay,
for
that's
SARS. That's if you buy for 1.150.
Sure. Becomes tricky sometimes, right? Okay, we're chatting to Nadia Moses around the real estate industry on if you'd like to purchase your next home, if you'd like to sell your next home as well, you can always give them a call. We'll give out some details a bit later as well. Nadia, what is important for our viewers, if you could maybe think about it very carefully, when dealing with or maybe choosing a real estate agency? Because let's face it, over the very many years we've heard some very hair-raising stories with regards to real estate agents, and I'm sorry, these are your colleagues, I understand, but sometimes people cut corners in order to make a sale.
Correct.
So what do we need to keep in mind when we're choosing a real estate agency?
Very important. I cannot stress this enough. Fidelity Fund certificate.
Okay.
You have to be registered with the Estate Agency Affairs Board.
Okay.
And that is also called now the PPRA.
Right.
So you have to have a license, basically, in layman's term. You have to have a license to sell property.
Okay.
So if you're a real estate agent, if you interview somebody as a real estate agent, that's the very first thing that you need to ask. Okay. Please show me your license. I need to know if you're registered. Also make sure that it's dated correctly, because people can say I'm licensed, but I don't, but it's expired already. That's the main important thing, because that person is dealing with your biggest asset. It doesn't matter if you're living in a small town or if you're living in a higher end of market, but that is the main thing. You want your agent to be registered with the Estate Agency Affairs Board.
And the license itself, how long is it valid for?
It's now 3 years.
3 years. So every 3 years they need to renew.
Yes, we pay for 3 years in advance, so they'll give you a license for 3 years. If you are obviously not wanting to do your qualifications in that 3 years, obviously the board will then remove you from the system. People always need to go online, check on your agent before obviously inviting them to your home. Make sure that they are registered. That, like I said, do research on internet. Go see what this person has done. Go see what is his reviews on his business, so that you can have an idea who are you inviting to your home. If you are a seller and you want to do your homework, invite 2 or 3 agencies.
Gotcha.
And they need to be able to tell you exactly what they're going to do to sell your property.
Speaking about a real estate license, how long does your license, for those that would like to enter this market and pursue this as a career, how long does that license take?
Okay, so when you start the industry and you have no experience, so you'll be coming in as an intern.
Okay.
So you'll work under a registered company, which is obviously somebody that's got an NQF5 that is registered. They have to work under that mentor for 2 years.
I see.
And in that 2 years, you have to do your qualifications. It's called the logbook, and you have to do your NQF4 within that 2 years' time. A lot of our people are failing to do that, unfortunately, but this is people are selling their property. Like I said, it's the biggest investment. You don't want any Tom, Dick and Harry coming to make a quick buck. We want people to know that once the transfer is done, that they are happy and that they've gotten their money and nobody's ran away with their money. But like Lukman is saying, this industry, unfortunately, and that is why we have to educate our viewers to make sure that they are looked after.
Yeah. You can't just read up on Google and say this is what needs to be done, and it's not as simple as that, right?
Not as simple as that.
Because that's what people do. Or follow another agent around and feel, okay, right now they can do this on their own.
That is why there's a lot of agents out there, but a lot of them don't last, because people think that when they come into this industry, it's a quick buck. So people look at, but the real estate agents make a lot of money, but it's not the case. But we don't want agents coming to people's home that are not registered. That is why it's important. If you don't have a Fidelity Fund certificate, then you cannot sell my home. That is as simple as that.
So if I invite you into my home, I'm now selling my home. What are some of the questions I need to ask my agent in order to feel that they're going to do the best job for me?
Okay, so you need to find out how is this person going to sell it? What is the marketing tools that they're going to use? What is the value? How does he determine your value of your property?
Okay.
Where does he do his research? You cannot go by looking at the rates paper. You need to obviously see what was done to the property. Is there approved plans for it? Also, go find out, the person needs to also say what the commission is, the fees.
Okay.
That is stuff that must be discussed up front.
Right. What is an average commission that agents tend to take?
7.5%.
On the high scale?
Yeah, I would say 7.5%, but there's like those agents that is not registered, they are doing it for 1 and 2%.
Wow.
And that is what is, and they are the people that is obviously, for us that has been in the industry for years now and doing our qualifications, they are the ones that is obviously taking, and that is, it's a quick buck scheme, you know.
I got you. Okay. Very, very interesting as well. Now, what questions, if I can ask you, our viewers can actually pose to their prospective agent when selling their property? We've had purchasing, right?
Yeah.
But now to actually to list their home,
Yeah.
if they would like to put it in, is it certain publications? Is it certain websites? Is it a certain area? They want to attract a particular market. What are some of the questions you can ask?
Where are they going to market? They need to show, obviously, where they've been marketing. Are they going to go to Gumtree? Are they going to Property 24? Those kind of portals. Are they going social media? They need to ask those kind of questions to the agents. Show me what you've sold before.
Right.
Give me references of clients that you've sold before. And our people are not asking these questions because they tend to think that our real estate agents knows everything. So those are the important things that you have to ask. What is your commission? What is your fees? The agent needs to explain to the seller, if we sell it $1 million, what am I supposed to pay from this $1 million? Because the seller might still have a bond over his property. So if you as a seller think I'm selling for $1 million, I'm going to get $1 million in my pocket. If the agent doesn't explain that to you of all the cost that is occurred to the sale. So obviously the seller might have a bond over his property. There's a bond that needs to be placed under cancellation by the bank. Sellers don't know that. A lot of people don't know that. So we have to inform them that we have to place this bond under cancellation, because if you don't do that, the bank is going to penalize you.
Yes.
So let's say, for example, look, man, you've bought a property 2 years ago and you now going overseas, or you're going to Johannesburg, or wherever you're going to go to, but you now want to sell quick. So you have to give the bank 90 days notice. Because if you don't, the bank is going to obviously hit you with penalties.
But also, when you're cancelling your bond, you need to ensure your bond insurance is also cancelled, because invariably you have insurance on it.
Yes, but you have to give them, the bank, 90 days notice.
Gotcha.
That is 3 months to give them 90 days notice so that they don't penalize you.
I'm with you.
Because now you've got the bond for 2 years, but he's going to penalize you for the remaining 18 years.
I get you. Nadia, it's been absolutely fascinating learning more about your industry that you specialize in. Thank you so much for being there for our community. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to cover various topics. How do our viewers get hold of you if they would like to contact you?
Okay, our contact number is 021 205 0323, and my cell number is 084 677 8459.
Great.
We've got a website, www.nadiaproperties.co.za, and you can also follow us on Facebook.
Brilliant. Awesome. We look forward to next week's edition when we learn more about the real estate industry. Have a great evening. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And that's how we end tonight's slot on real estate. Coming up after the break, I chat to 2 authors, budding authors that have released 2 books, and they are going to chat about their works as well. You are still watching Hilaal Live.